I think that one of the things, like, it takes some time. It takes some time to recover from the deep-seated feeling that something still has to happen. And that something that still has to happen is somehow going to change you in some way and fix what's still left to be fixed. Well, the feeling that something is about to happen or is going to happen or should happen is because something is always going to happen. That's just the case. That's the way life is. Life is an endless parade of things happening within your consciousness, within your mind. So, there. Okay. Okay, one more.
Just a quick question.
Come on, one more.
I just wanted.
As long as people want to talk to me, I'm going to stay and talk. I was trying to be nice this morning.
Well, I wasn't intending to come up either, so. Hi, I'm Barb.
Hi, Barb. My pleasure.
My pleasure, too. Just what I'm having trouble reconciling is you said, like, mankind may have gone too far. And so there's a fear there that arises in me, and this want to do something to help.
I have the same. I have the same. That's my life. Look at yourself. That's what you can do.
Yeah.
That's it. There's nothing more to be done. Look at yourself, and when help is needed, it'll come asking for you.
Okay, and what if it I think it has.
Has
but
what?
Come looking for me.
Then
Just move in that direction and
how do I can't give
yeah,
you
I know.
I can't give
I
you
know,
advice
I'm sitting
what
in
things
this-
come to you that
Yeah.
you should respond to and should not.
Yeah.
Your own natural intelligence.
Yeah.
Just trust yourself. Really. Your own natural intelligence will guide you. All the guidance you need is from that.
Okay.
And when you're finished with this disease that is the problem for all of us. When you're finished with this disease, you'll find that natural intelligence is clarified and simplified in a way that is unimaginable when we're trapped in this thing of, oh my God, is this right? Is that right? What if I do this? Is that going to be wrong? It's just the way forward is just plain.
Okay, because I thought things were moving along nicely until I took the trip down here, and then it was like every obstacle under the sun has met me somewhere. In just old attitudes and ways of dealing things, not working out, reactions, all this is just bubbling to the surface. And
That's probably a good sign.
yeah, it probably is a good sign.
You stir the pot, the stuff comes up to the surface.
I know. Anyways, and then, the world and the brink of the world and the mankind. And it's like, oh my God, I'm just going crazy.
Don't worry about it, but the fate of humankind rests on your shoulder.
Yeah, that's right. That's some level.
But don't take it too seriously.
Are we eternal? And then there's no ending and beginning. Didn't Ramana say that he was going nowhere? I mean, and then I don't know.
Ramana was limited. Ramana was his expression had been hijacked by the intense spiritual investigation he did after what happened to him, and so that, and there's an email newsletter that I get that has quotes from Ramana all the time, and I look at him once in a while, and every once in a while I'll take one and save it because it points out something that I think is important to be seen, and always I see how Ramana was trying to say the same thing that I'm saying, and that how the weight of spiritual understanding was so great, and especially given his position, he really didn't want to do this, right? He ran away from us, hiding in caves and trying to get away from us until finally we grabbed him and locked him up in the ashram and so forth, and made him chop carrots for a living, and stuff like that, right? But Ramana was his capacity to communicate the simplicity of what had occurred to him, although he stands in a class of his own in that regard. But it still was encumbered by the weight of spiritual understanding. So that I see Ramana, now I see these quotes, and I see Ramana telling somebody very clearly what to do, and then wrapping it but doing so within a context that is conditioned by the spiritual understanding, and seeing how even Ramana was trapped by that, and that he may not even have seen that to be the case. You have to see, Ramana was a 16-year-old boy. His dad died young and suddenly, without any warning whatsoever. And about a year later, Ramana found himself, 16-year-old boy, he was going to the high school at the American University, right? He was, and 16-year-old boy, not especially spiritual or religious any more than any other 16-year-old boy is, and he laid down and pretended to be dead. There's nothing particularly advanced in spiritual understanding that is to be found there. He laid down, he pretended to be dead, he imagined, he stiffened his body, pretending it was in rigor mortis, and this is, when you see it from here, you're seeing it through the veil of all the things that have been said about Ramana, right? So that those very actions now take on a kind of specialness. When we look at it from here, we see those very acts with a kind of specialness, a patina of kind of specialness, a haze kind of put over them, right? Oh, right, he laid down, oh my God, it's so... But it was just a 16-year-old boy doing stupid things. That's what it was. And what he finally reported was that what he saw was that the only thing that remained was the force of personality. That's his words. The only thing that remained was the force of personality. That was his realization. That was it. Which is so not spiritual in the normal way that we think of spiritual understanding. Well, now he's had this really profound thing occur within his mind, and and he's still a 16-year-old boy. He decides that because he heard that Tiruvannamalai was a place where they had a lot of spiritual stuff going on. From his uncle, he heard that. He decided to go to Tiruvannamalai, and he swiped some money from somebody, got a train to Tiruvannamalai, and stayed in Tiruvannamalai for a number of years while a close friend of his that he met there brought him spiritual books. And he tells us that the reason he did that was because he wanted to understand what had happened to him. So his understanding of what had happened to him came from a really intense and deep investigation into the spiritual literature, into the Upanishadic literature. And that from then on in, that's what he had to speak from. And that's the only way that he could find to speak. Although even with that, he was different from everybody else. Like even to say the things he said were, and that's why they hated him. The gurus of the time hated him. So take Ramana with a grain of salt. See Ramana as a human being, and you'll get much more value from seeing what a wondrous human being he actually turned out to be.
Okay, well then I'm going to bring this up then. So in the situations like the life and teachings of the masters of the Far East, and where there's a perfecting of the human body, where there's the time travel, where there's different possibilities, where there's angelic realms or celestial realms. I don't know how, and I always come back to grounding with whenever I get into too much out there, to look at myself, just to come back to because sometimes I even listen to myself and I think this sounds a little absurd. You know, and yet there's some part of me there's some part of me that there's some knowing in me, there's some call to me of some sort in all of this that brought me to your teaching, that brought me to that's bringing me somewhere.
Yes,
And,
but this whole thing, what you're speaking of, is what brought me to this too. But it's like, you know, I'm going to tell another story about a spiritual teacher who was with Ramana Papaji.
yes.
Papaji came to Ramana, and he came to Ramana, and I forget I forget the exact story. Damn, it's a good story too. But he said, he from the time he was a child, he was a Krishna devotee, a really serious, you know, he saw Krishna and had played with Krishna and had Krishna manifest before him and so forth and so on. And that was his whole life. His whole spiritual life was as a devotee of Krishna. And he performed these really difficult and time-consuming and inconvenient acts of Krishna devotion, like getting up early in the morning and doing all this stuff. And he did that for his whole life. He did it every day, every day, every day. And after he came to Ramana, and after a time he went to Ramana, and he said, Ramana, what about I have this, what happened was, there came a day when he tried to do his devotion and couldn't. It just couldn't. I mean, it wasn't like he was opposed to it or anything. He just found he couldn't perform the acts. He couldn't speak the words. He couldn't say the things that had to be said. And he went to Ramana and said, Ramana, what is this, man? I no longer can perform my devotion to Krishna. And Ramana said to him, I see. And how did you get to Tiruvannamalai? And Papaji said, on a train. Okay. And how did you get from the train station to the ashram here? And he said, well, I rented a bull cart, whatever it was, right? Brought my baggage here and so forth. And he said, and where's the cart now? And Papaji said, well, the cart's gone. It brought me here and left. And the train? The same. The train dropped me off here and went on about its business. Ramana said, it's the same with Krishna devotion. It's done with you. And I suspect that will happen with you too. Now, I have no contention with any of the things that you just said. I know nothing about them, and I have no contention with them. But I do know that they have not given us, this human species, an end to the insanity of the human species.
Right.
I know that. And I know that this looking has, in the case of thousands of people, brought an end to the insanity in their lives. So, what I would suggest to you is that you put that aside for a time. And just look.
Okay. And
don't, you don't even have to put it aside. I suggest you do. You know, I think going on a kind of fast in this way is very useful. But even if you don't put it aside, don't conflate it with this looking.
Okay.
It has nothing whatsoever to do with this.
I've been able to listen to you there, like being able to keep those distinct and see how they actually do not in any way conflict and that the freedom is the freedom, the me is the me.
Right.
Yeah. And yes, so I have no problem there at all, and I very much appreciate your teachings, and they are reaching young people around me, and it's wonderful, and they're hearing it.
It's young people that we need, you know, really.
Yes, and it's speaking to them, and people with great resistance, and I really thank you for that, because I do care. that, that the suffering
I know,
stop.
of course you do.
So thank you
You're very
very
welcome.
much.
Okay, that really is it. See what happens when I take the time limits off? Pretty soon we're here for hours. I hope nobody is too terribly fatigued by this long session. I will see you all tomorrow, same time, same bat channel, and I encourage you to look. And I encourage you also, for the time you're here, and you too, Barb, for the time we're here, put down the spiritual books for a while. Just for the time we're here. Concentrate on what you are doing, not on what other people have done, not even me. Concentrate on what you are doing, and look every chance you get. Every time it occurs to you to do so, see if you cannot do what we did this morning and bring your attention inward. The whole purpose of that exercise was not to make a thing of it, but to show you directly, mostly, the power you have to use your attention, to focus and move the beam of your attention, and what that feels like to do that, and then to move it to you. So, I love you all. That's the truth. I love you all. I am unbelievably, I couldn't possibly express how grateful I am to all of you, for coming to me, spending time with me, helping me see the way through to bring this to the rest of humanity. Okay?